we have to be recording so she can do it.
Yep.
I have a question, Alex,
Yes.
or maybe Jessica can answer it.
Hold on, before we go any further, there's a lot of background noise. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
that's what I noticed.
Is that from me? It may be from me. Hold on, let me step away.
What time did the meeting start?
6:34, Cindy.
Okay, thank you.
And we approved the minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That's all we've done.
Okay, and I'll leave them for Brian to sign. I have them in a folder.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Is that better? Was the background noise for me?
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
you were the one. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
I was under the belief that we had a treasurer collector. Is that what you are, Alex?
I believe that's what it is labeled as. Yes.
Okay, because on the sheets and stuff, it just says treasurer. And
Correct.
kept
I know.
thinking, now, did I get this wrong or?
Yes, it's been posted. I've seen it go different ways in both ways. I've seen it, I mean, labeled both ways in different ways.
Yeah.
I am the treasurer collector, as I am also in charge of collections, though. There's nobody else in charge of collections.
Okay, so you're it. You're
Yes.
both. Okay. As long as we get that cleared out. I noticed on your sheet, you didn't have hours in for like Janine and the new employee. How many
Okay. Those
hours
are
a week are they working?
30 and 32.
So Janine is 30.
Correct.
And what's the new person's name?
Cheryl Machete.
Okay. And she's working 32.
Yes.
Okay.
I think at the time this was done, we were still trying to arrange and figure that out. So
Yeah.
we hadn't hired her
Okay.
yet.
Okay. Now, your dues and meetings went up. Can you explain that?
Yes, the school in Amherst that I want to go to. Every treasurer and collector goes every year for the most part. That is at UMass, and that's why it went up. That would be for me to stay at UMass, and also to have Cheryl go to classes also.
That dues and meetings, or is this your,
I'm sorry, hold on 1 minute. Let me make sure.
I'm
right
talking
here.
about dues and meeting, not
Dues and
the,
meetings, 350,
vacation.
350.
did the dues,
I went off basically judging based off what was spent this year, 350, 350. I'm looking right now. That portion was based off of my expenditures of this year from what was spent last year by Sharon.
okay.
Hold on 1 minute. I'll pull that up.
I'm just wondering why it went up.
Yeah. Dues and meetings. So the dues and meetings goes along with the education, and that is why. So with the dues, that's the MCTA and those dues and those meetings. And we also took taking extra classes that are incorporated in that because of the webinars that's going on. So it is
Okay.
actually combined. It's actually combined where they are charging us for the webinars that we are attending.
Okay.
I mean, it could go under education. It could go under dues and meetings. All of those are part of that.
Well, now if you can explain on your education going up 233%.
Yes, that is for going to UMass Amherst for me and Cheryl to take classes. As I do live in Woburn, I will need to stay at UMass as opposed to driving 2 hours back and forth from there every day.
For what, a week or how many days?
It should be 4 days. If I could take the exam, maybe 5.
Thank you.
Yes. But so it's difficult because that number can actually go down. I spoke to the MCTA today, and they're planning on doing the webinar. They haven't really decided whether they want to do the full classes in August. If they do actually have the full-blown school in August, that's where that number goes up. If it's webinars, then that goes down. It's tough to predict. So I put it in there because if it is there and it is live, the ability to be, at a live school like that, to be able to ask the questions opposed to webinars is huge. I mean, I think we all understand how being in person is more beneficial to webinars.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Now,
I mean,
what
go ahead.
classes is this that you, and you said
So-
they have to take them every 3 years?
So once you're certified, you typically go every year, no matter what.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go for all the days. You have to go for recertification classes. A lot of the treasurers I talk to constantly go to the payroll classes because those things are constantly changing.
Mhm.
And that's what it is. It's basically it's all the way down from responsibilities of the treasurer and collector, all the way down to they even have how to interact with customers. I mean, obviously, I've been there, but for somebody like Cheryl who's new, they do offer those classes also.
Uh-huh.
It is every single thing that is done inside my office at the school within 4 days.
Okay.
And this is something that pretty much every treasurer and collector in Massachusetts does attend. I know I'm pretty sure Sharon went in the past.
Do you get a certification or something with it?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
After attending all the classes and going through, it does take 3 years to get the full certification.
And then you have to renew it, or is that it?
Yes, you do have to renew it. You
Renew.
take classes for it. Yes, you do renew it. They actually just had the renewal exam for everybody that's already gone. I believe the other month.
I'm trying to be a little more specific where we have 2 new members on board so that they can understand the background of everything.
So,
And how-
so the MCTA it's a huge database and a huge collection of all the treasurers in the state. And we even have, email form that goes around. So whenever you have a question or something you don't know, it basically just pops up on this message board. I've seen everything from, has anybody outsourced their human resource department to, how do you put demands on a bill? I've seen every question people, will put on this website, and everybody just, gives their census. They also offer the certifications and the classes, everything from tax takings to collections to general ledger. It's everything. It is not software based. It is how you do the actual process and how you handle things and where things go. It's just it is basically all of it. It's the whole job, and they put everything online afterwards, so you have a huge resource base of anything you need to look up. I mean, if you want, basically it's the job from real estate taxes, real estate excise, how to calculate and everything like that. You know, a lot of the stuff most of us do know, but you know, the laws constantly change. So they do have law classes where there are attorneys that doing the presentations.
Does anyone have any other questions for
Yeah,
Alex?
Jessica probably answers better than Alex can, because this treasurer's stipend, why does the treasurer get a stipend plus the salary? I don't understand. You have any input in that?
I believe that Sharon had a stipend. I think the stipend's included once the treasurer collector becomes MCTA certified.
Oh.
So,
That was my understanding. That's why I did remove it. Sorry not to interrupt you, Jessica.
so
That was actually a question I had,
No,
because
that's
on the budget reports that we get does show $1,000
Yeah,
of a certification stipend for this year.
It
Is that money not going to be used?
It is not. Oh,
No,
sorry.
so-
Go ahead.
yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, so since Alex isn't certified yet, he won't be getting the stipend. And that stipend was included because the budget was made when the previous treasurer collector was here who was certified. So it was budgeted in for her to get that this year. But since she
Gotcha.
left,
all right.
it was never
Okay.
paid out.
So it's for being certified. Interesting. I have other questions for Alex.
Yeah.
About his
Okay,
treasurer, about his treasurer position. Is that okay now, or?
Yep. Go right ahead. You can
I guess the question
you
is,
have the
Alex,
floor.
were you gonna appear at our meeting like once a month or something with with some of the financial results? Like percentage of expenditures, percentage of revenues coming in, things like that? Excise tax, whether they're going out or not?
Okay. So with expenditures, I mean, that would be more of Jean. She does handle the general ledger accounts. I do handle the collections.
Okay. You
So
post,
that
you post
Mhm.
the numbers?
we do post the numbers
You do?
into the software that Jean uses, but she
Okay.
keeps track of all of that all of those postings.
So in other words, the treasurer wouldn't have no idea of how the revenues are coming in?
I mean, that's certainly information that I look up, but she does keep track of it. What's going on with the accounts and what is going on with their budget.
Well,
I do not look,
Mm.
sorry.
My problem is that I've asked you before about this and you didn't come up with a number. And you said you could look it up. I'd like to have the numbers. We've had problems before with revenue coming in at the treasurer's position. And I'd like to make sure we've got the numbers every, month or so.
So you want the exact amount of collections of real estate, personal property, and excise every month,
Well, no, percentage would be good.
a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Supposed to be collected.
yeah. So as of right now, as of beginning of the year,
Mhm.
we are at, with real estate taxes, we are at 50% of the commitments. The only issue is when you say 50%, it does go up and down with how much
Right.
is billed between the first two quarters and the third and fourth.
But as of January 1st, we had it collected 100% or 50% of what was owed.
It's out of the whole commitment. So it's never going to be exactly 100%. That's why we do
Oh, I
the
know.
tax.
No, it isn't going to be 100%, but is it 96
Yeah.
or 50 or what is it? Don't know.
So those are numbers that I can obviously I can run for you on the computer and radar. I can easily get those to you, the percentages.
Good. I'd like to know if the excise tax bills have been sent out.
Okay, those are going out March 1st.
They haven't gone out for this period or any period.
So So there's usually several commitments throughout the year.
Right.
Last year, we had 7 and a revised one.
Mhm.
There are no set dates for them.
Right.
We are setting these ones out March 1st.
And those will be for the entire year or up to date anyway, at least.
So the way it works is every vehicle that was registered as of January 1st
Mhm.
will go out in the first commitment. And it's not exactly as of January 1st. It's what the motor vehicles, registry of motor vehicles decides. So it could be as of December 17th. If you register your car on December 30th, you may not be in that first commitment. That would go in the second commitment. So if somebody were to register a new car, say in May, they may go in the 5th commitment.
My only question is not, not that, it's just that any bills that have come into you from the registry, have those all been sent out?
Those are being mailed out March 1st.
Okay. All right. We'll let that go.
No, I mean, we don't have to let it go. You can ask.
Right, I just did.
No, but you said we can let that go. I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, for tonight,
Oh, okay,
you
because,
don't have the numbers.
the amount of being sent out for, I believe it's for around 550,000 a commitment one.
So we got $550,000 out there waiting to be posted.
Not waiting to be posted. That's being mailed out.
I'm sorry, being mailed out, right?
Yeah, being collected. I guess will be collected within, well, you can't say 550,000 will be collected because by March 30th or 31st, because it depends on whether they pay.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Let's see, what other question did I have?
He put the bid that was in Aaron's room in there, because it doesn't have
Is there an issue with the excise taxes going out March 1st? Is there an issue with the excise taxes going out March 1st?
Who are you addressing the question to?
I was curious.
Well, we just want to know what the schedule is, that's all.
Okay.
And has everything been, you're saying you don't post the cash flow though to any software? It's all done by Gene?
So when you say cash flow, do you mean the turnovers from other departments?
Yeah, the money that comes in.
Yes, we do collect them, we do deposit them, and then we post what's being deposited inside Gene software.
Okay. And we're up to date as of, you don't know for
Which
sure?
when the turnovers come in?
Yeah.
Yes, she does have her turnovers posted.
All right, we'll have to check with Gene later then. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Alex?
Yeah, Alex, I don't know if this is the time. Jessica also sent us a thing that you did for this fiscal year 2020 capital projects request.
Mhm.
Yes,
Is that something we should talk about here?
I believe so.
And there's a few things that are confusing to me on that. So this is a special capital that you need to collect money from what you call, I just read this and it's a little unclear to me, but this non-perfected liens. So
Mhm.
that perfected means that some people owe money on their taxes.
Yes, that's correct. So you have, depending on if a house gets sold or not, the town has 3.5 to 5 years to perfect a lien. So if a property has outstanding taxes, you're basically putting your claim in there. You're basically your legal claim into making sure you get that. If you wait to a certain time length and they sell the house and that lien is not perfected, the town may lose out on those taxes if they have the correct attorney and they go through the right process.
Okay.
That's something I don't want to see anybody lose out on. And what does happen in that process is you have to file legal paperwork at the registry of deeds. That has gone up in price. That is one of the reasons why that number is going higher. you also have to file the paperwork and you also have to advertise in the paper.
So now this money on this is separate from your budget, right? You said it was just
No, no,
going
no, it's basically increasing it. You're normally allotting 10,000 for tax takings. I want to increase it. And I was giving the reasoning why as I was increasing it to 7,000 or increasing it by
So-
7,000.
so the 10,000 is in which line on this?
That was what was allotted last year.
In
Tax
which I
title
don't see it.
fees.
What is it?
Tax title fee.
About
Eric,
158.
Oh,
down at
okay.
the bottom,
Oh, okay, I see.
expenses. Yeah.
And when we're looking at
So-
that expense report, it shows no money spent this year, or 12% of the money spent.
Yeah.
Mm,
So we didn't do any this year, but we gonna do it all next year, or?
we did not, we didn't, no takings were done this year.
Okay, okay. So we have that money also we can add, well, no, that'll go to free cash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
What's on
So,
the treasurer, sorry, what is that GASB 45 valuation that gets pulled forward from the budget? It was carried forward and there's been no expense on that so far this year. Is that something that's been carried forward for several cycles, or is it money just sitting there, or is that going to be spent at some point in time?
That's the gas fee.
Yeah.
Do you know about that, Alex?
I'm trying to find out where you're looking.
yeah, I'm not either.
No, that's in it's in the expenditure report
Expenditure report.
Okay,
Yeah.
under treasurer?
under treasurer. Yep. It's
Yes.
The GASB 45. It's a carry forward balance of 4,500. On page 2.
It keeps getting paid. It keeps getting carried forward. Jessica, do you know on that?
This is the first that I've heard of it, so I'm not sure
I've-
what it is.
I know the gas
I-
fee, but I can't really remember everything about it.
I think
It's a
it,
state
that-
thing, I think.
It's general
Yeah.
accounting standards. I mean, I'm just trying to find where you're looking. Give me one
gas-
moment.
The GASB 45 is we hire someone to estimate our liability for retirees, which gets put in the audit every year. So that's what it's for. It's to give our liability.
Yeah.
But we actually have somebody outside of the town do that. So that's for hiring that person.
Under assessors, though, right?
No, GASB's under the treasurer, isn't it?
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't see it on my list, but anyway. Okay,
it's on the expenditure report, but it's not on
Not on the budget.
Alex's
For-
budget worksheet.
Is that something that just keeps getting carried forward, that expense?
Well, sometimes it doesn't get done in time, like the auditors, so we carry it over if that audit hasn't been completed yet, because they need it as part of the audit.
That
So,
was completed in December.
yeah, we just did it in December, right, for this audit that we're doing right now, that the
Oh,
audit's
okay.
finishing up right now. So it has carried over in the past because of that. I don't have the report, so I don't know exactly what's sitting there.
So it may get paid out this year.
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably in the, but I think it should be in the budget for next year. I'm not sure off the top of my head whether it's every year we have to do it or it's every couple of years.
It is every couple of years. It is not every year.
Okay.
So-
So there's no reason to have that.
So whatever's left after we pay for the one we did in December, we'll close out.
I believe it is every other year.
So there's no reason to have it on the 22.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you.
But Jean, shouldn't that be on his budget worksheet?
Isn't it on his budget worksheet?
No,
No.
that's why they're confused.
Oh, yeah, it's usually part of the treasurer collector's budget. It's up to them to handle payroll.
That's what I thought.
So it was paid this year, so it wouldn't go on next year.
No, it wouldn't be next year, but the following year it will be.
Yeah. Yep.
But if there's a reduction, so if like that was 40, like if that's 40, shouldn't there be a am I thinking wrong by saying that, because you know, you had that 4,500 and it's not gonna be on the budget, so it's actually the overall budget's gonna be $4,500 less?
Right. Yeah, because it won't be included in 22s.
Exactly. And same thing with on going back to the omnibus for the treasurer on line 12, and the percentage change, it says not applicable, but I feel that should be a negative percentage because there's no dollar figure for 22, but there was $1,000 for 20 and 21.
It might just be the way that the formula, once you brought that number down to 0, it might have been that the formula wasn't able to do the math there. So I can just check to see if the formula is wrong or if it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see, because right now you're looking at like an 8.5% budget increase. But if there are some of these expenditures that are not going to be used, to have a better idea, you may actually have a you know, level funded or even a negative, pulling $5,500 out of this total.
But that Gatsby number isn't in on this budget worksheet, Dan.
Yeah, correct.
They're not listing it in there,
Ooh.
which it should be. So in 23, we'll have to make sure it goes on there. Are there any other questions?
No.
Brian, Jean's on now. Do you want to ask her the questions you were asking Alex?
Yeah. Hi, Gene. You know,
Brian was waiting for you, Jean.
you're gonna need to unmute though, Gene. No, the question I had was posting these things. You know, the revenues coming in and everything. You do all the posting?
Am I the one posting? No, well,
The treasurer?
they post it into batches into my system and then I post it to my system.
Okay, so is he up to date with your system? Let's put it that way.
No,
With the turnovers, the
What-
turnovers should be in there.
with the collector's turnovers, no.
Okay,
I don't have anything for February, and the big batches from the banks are not in either.
okay, so we're up to
I
date.
was talking about the other departments. Those should be in that Janine puts in, correct?
Your side is fine, yes.
Yes, that's,
So we're up to date as of January 31st or December 30th?
Well, it's in for the most part, except for the stuff that came in from the mortgage companies. Those are not in.
Right,
Those are not in at all for what was due for real estate on February 1st.
right.
those are in now.
So those, but they haven't been posted they haven't been posted in
They
batches
have-
in my system.
No, they've been posted
And
in the
then-
Vadar,
And nothing is,
not into your software yet.
and then anything else that came in February for any of that is not in either.
Right. Well,
Correct, that's what
everything's
we are.
in- Everything's in to December, the end of January, I mean.
Yeah, except for what came in from the big banks,
Okay,
companies, which is a good chunk of what was due on February 1st.
oh, I see. Okay,
So,
hopefully we'll be catching up on that then.
Yeah, that is already it.
Good.
That was just done within the last 2 days.
That's it then. Thank you, Gene.
yep.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay? Any other questions?
Yeah, Alex, I was, we were talking, we're talking about this letter on capital projects some other time, but I still was, had a couple of questions.
Oh,
on
yeah,
that.
sorry.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So it says there you're gonna send a letter to all residents. I don't think you mean all residents, do you?
All outstanding residents. So what I'm doing to try to cut that number down right now, and I'm sending them out Monday, because the number is still too high. So if you look at my sheet, it's based off of, 80 people, 80 parcels that are outstanding, which I think is absolutely high.
Right.
So this is gonna go out on Monday, and it's just gonna give them a reminder that they do owe taxes on their fiscal year 20 taxes. Right now, there is still 150,000 left out of fiscal year 20. Hopefully that number gets knocked down by sending out these letters and giving them a reminder. I think I briefly touched up about this in previous meetings, how the demands weren't sent out until I got there. Because it was after July 1st, I think some residents got confused where they have mortgage companies pay, and they had outstanding taxes prior year, and they kind of let it ride, thinking that fiscal year 21, fiscal year 20 would be end, and they get confused with the actual calendar. So
Yep.
hopefully this letter reminds them.
Okay, so it's just going to the people the parcels that where you have back taxes owed.
Correct, until the advertising happens. Obviously,
Okay.
that goes in the public paper, and then everybody
So
can look at that list.
So 80 was a guess.
No, 80 was not a guess. 80 is a guess of what's going to happen in the future. I'm sorry, not a guess what's going to happen in the future. 80, it would be, as if I were to do it today or this month, it would be
Right.
it would be 80. The average, this whole process wouldn't happen probably till October of next year.
Okay.
Where to cut down costs, I would lump down fiscal year 19 along with it. Fiscal year 19, 20, and 21.
Okay.
Good.
Now, so this 80, then the actual number of parcels drops as you go down. So the advertising isn't going to be for 80 parcels. It'll be for
That's the idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so even before the advertising, I have to send out another letter. And then I have to give them a 2-week saying in 2 weeks, this is going in the paper. So
Okay.
there has to be even another letter sent out. I personally, it is a lot of letters going out. A lot of towns do not send out this many letters. It seems like this is the way that people want to be reminded, and go out and give them the best chance they can, especially in these trying times, I say. But
Okay.
you don't want to. Advertising is a very embarrassing thing for a lot of people, and I hate to see it. And you try to avoid it. I've had to advertise a family member before, and it's not fun.
Not easy.
Okay.
Alex, just for my
So-
information, where does the number usually stand? If you said 80 is high, where is it usually at?
For this town, I'd like to see it get down to 25, 30.
Okay.
You go to a town like Winchester, they do 2 a year. Where I was prior in Lowell, I think we were up to 150.
Okay, and how many parcels do we have in town, give or take?
That would be an answer for the question for the assessors. Exact
okay.
number of parcels I do not have on me right now.
No, that's okay. I've it's kind of a shot in the dark, but okay, thank you.
Are these,
So,
Are these
so this is
residential-
something, Alex, that happens every year. So this is money that's above and beyond your budget. Is that correct?
Yes, because we're incorporating prior years, and also because the number is higher. This number, hopefully, it goes down lower and it does not get spent. I can't plan on what the number is going to be in October.
But that's not a budget. But this is not a budget item in the normal budget for the treasurer's department.
$10,000 would be a normal thing, and every year that you do a taking. The more consistent the more consistent it is. So if it's done every other year or every 3 years, people realize that, and they don't really, they tend to notice it, and they can get behind the taxes. If you keep consistent with every year, same thing with demands. I like doing demands 2 weeks after a bill is due. By keeping consistent in that way, I believe it does help out collections. And people don't try to let it get past that point, especially when you have a $30 late fee going on an excise bill. So my plan is for the excise, when they after they're due, 2 weeks after they're due, those demands will go out on those bills. Once you get them used to that, and they know, they will pay.
Yes, that's for sure, because
I just
you let
noticed
them
an
go-
inconsistency.
if you let them go a couple of times, then they're gonna continue. They're gonna say, I get away with it. What's the
That's,
problem?" So I agree.
yes.
Get it out there.
That's exactly what it is. It's same thing with the water and sewer liens. When I lien the water and sewer bills, if you don't lien them, people will realize that, and their water bill will go higher. What does happen when you do the taking? The interest on the bills go up from 14 to 16%.
Yeah.
You also, all these fees, you do have to remember that I am attaching to their bills. These are not fees that we just have to spend money on. They do go on the bills. So the registry of deeds upped the fees from $75 to $105 per certificate. You have to pay the $105 for the actual posting of the taking. And then they actually require another $105 for the release. Those fees are paid by the customer or resident, along with the advertising fees and any other fees incorporated. I can actually even attach a $10 processing fee to everybody's bills, or all these residents during this process. That's something that can be discussed at a later time, but that is something that also can be done.
All right, Claire, we should
Okay.
move on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you,
is
Alex. Thank
everybody
you,
else
Alex.
set with that?
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, everybody have a good night.
Thank you, you
You
too.
too.
Good night.
Thank you.
Jessica, is anyone here for the Wachusett, or is it just the letter that came?
Yep, we do have Colleen Abrams here.
Okay, good. If we can have her.
Okay, hello,
Hello, Colleen.
good evening.
Hi there, Colleen.
So,
Yeah, Colleen, we have a couple of new members on our board, so if you could give them a little background on what this is and everything. It's something we've been paying every year. But
Yes.
if you could elaborate on it. for
okay.
us.
Well, the word is that this is Wachusett Greenways. This is our 26th year. And our primary mission is connecting the Wachusett Ware communities with trails and greenways. And our primary project is the Mass Central Rail Trail, which goes from the center of Sterling out to the Ware River in Barre. So includes Barre to Sterling. And ultimately, the Mass Central Rail Trail someday will connect all the way from Northampton to Boston. There are several sections either built or under construction at this time. But our communities are the communities between Barre and Sterling. And that would include Barre, Oakham, Holden, Paxton, Princeton, Rutland, Sterling, West Boylston. Did I get everything? Anyway, 8 towns. And so we're all together working on keeping this trail open and really accessible to everyone. We're working on numerous construction projects, some to kind of a redo of a section that we first constructed with slopes that were really too steep. We just finished a section in Holden that went from some slopes being 13 to 15% down to having an accessible 5% trail. And it's worked out really nicely. So we've got another challenging section we're working on Today I was out for 5.5 hours working on elementary surveying and laying out the route for 2 new miles of the trail in Holden. So I almost forgot to come on tonight. And then I had some trouble getting on with the Zoom, but I'm going to learn how to negotiate the website and find you quickly. But it worked out, and it was nicely set up, and I was glad to see you were all there working on making sure that everyone keeps their taxes lined up and that your town runs well. So that's
Great.
good. I'm always amazed at all the work that goes on behind the scenes in each of the towns. It's a lot. So thank you. My job is being outside until I'm a little windburned, and I like that part too. So we're all volunteer, but the key role for the towns is a modest sum each year to support maintenance and annual expenses. The construction expenses, we're dealing with those through grants, through the DCR Recreational Trails Program and the new Mass Trails Program, as well as foundations, businesses, individual donations, and on it goes, a whole combination of kind of all the entities. Sometimes early on in the construction, in certain sections, the town actually helped do some of the construction, and West Boylston and other places that happened. And sometimes there's been some actual money in the town coffer towards construction. But our primary annual thing that we're hoping for is this modest sum from every one of the 8 towns that then will allow us to keep the trail in really good condition. So it helps to pay for some mailing costs, just general annual costs. It was helping to pay for the portable restrooms, but those are on hold during COVID. We've only brought back one in a situation where it's kind of needed to not have a negative impact on the neighboring business. But otherwise, we're just kind of on hold with that. But this year we did a lot of mowing, the cost of refurbishing all these donated and hodgepodge of mowers we have, and we just keep working to take good care of the trail. The cost of gravel for repairing. There's a parking lot on the trail entrance in Rutland that has a giant pothole at the entrance. And so we brought in a couple loads of gravel and worked them over with a donated tractor and grading work by one of our trail volunteers. And another section of trail, again, some erosion issues. So we want to try to keep the trail up and not let it gradually fall into disrepair. As you know, with gravel roads in the town, if you don't take care of it, it gradually gets less and less accessible to all. And the goal is to make it accessible to all. Okay, I'm all done talking. Sorry. That was a long introduction.
Thank you.
Great.
So we've generally been giving 1,000 a year on this.
Yes.
Does anyone have any other questions for
Well,
Colleen?
I think it's money well spent, and I certainly enjoy the trail myself, and I really appreciate all that you do and all your volunteers do to keep it up. So, yeah, keep up the good work, and maybe we can get you $2,000 next year.
Well, we were working to just raise it by 100 last year with all the towns.
Oh, maybe.
But what has happened is just kind of a freeze on any changes with the COVID year. So we're not looking to make changes this year. And our changes with our membership, we're still, for an individual member, basically a gift in any amount makes you a member. So if you send us $5, we send you the guide, and you are a worthy member. But with donations have ranged all the way from $5 to $160,000 from a family foundation. So it's quite a range. And some, those who can donate more toward the construction do, but any amount counts, and we don't raise our membership very much, very fast. And we don't intend to raise the expectations for the annual support from each town very much or very fast. As towns can do anything towards maintenance, we're always really grateful for that. So each town at different times has done, perhaps a ditch gets out of hand with hand maintenance, so they might come in and clean out a ditch, or they might repair a section of trail. Different towns at different times help in different ways.
You're welcome. Colleen, one more question maybe. In your talk, you mentioned going to ending in Barre, that you go from Sterling to Barre. But I thought I walked on a section in Hardwick.
Yes,
Don't you go through to Hardwick?
East Quabbin Land Trust has worked in Hardwick, and ultimately there's more to be done in connecting more into Barre, and to the tip of the hat to Ed Yaglu.
Yeah.
At some point, yeah, more than a tip of a hat, 2 thumbs up. At some point, we may be able to work out some new construction connections between Hardwick and Barre, and the work where we're doing, and sort of hands-on together with East Quabbin Land Trust. We just turned over our float that was made to like a model of the train engine that was on the Mass Central line. And we lost our storage place at the DCR barn. The floor collapsed, kaboom. And the poor little train was rescued. And now it is being stored with East Quabbin Land Trust, and a nice cooperative arrangement. And hopefully someday we would bring it out for an event or another parade. We've taken it on the parade for Rutland 4th of July. I say that there's a relationship there with East Quabbin, and we just don't know how fast each new section of the trail can be completed. We're right now we've got about 4 construction projects underway. So it's going to be some time before we do new sections that are excuse me, that are not currently in a construction project funded.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you very much, Colleen.
Thank you.
Yep. Good night, Colleen.
Okay, thank you, Clara, and good night, Eric, and all. Have a successful meeting tonight. Good night.
We hope so.
Thank you.
Now, the next one is the building department. Do we have anyone here from them?
No, I do not have anybody here for them. I was just talking to Andrea, who's the administrative assistant, and she said that she sent the link out to the building commissioner, who would be responsible for this meeting. But
Now, is that this
I don't
William Cantel?
Bill Cantel?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, they do have a level funded budget to my understanding. So I guess, I mean, if there's any questions that I could relay to them, I'm sure they'd be happy to
The
Well, I
building
had
commission,
one question I was
follow up.
looking at on the
Sure.
building permits, kind of wondering how it's looking, if there's much building going on, they could give
Okay.
us a little thing. And then I noticed the plumbing, wiring, and gas inspectors get a stipend.
Yep.
But then underneath it says reimbursed by permit fees.
Yep.
they get
So
the-
I'm wondering exactly what is that? There's no numbers in here or anything, but I was curious about that.
So my interpretation of this is that there's a stipend that is paid out to them, and then as we collect the revenue from permit fees, that goes
All of
revolved
the
into
money
that.
from the permit fees goes to the
So-
inspectors?
Yes. Yes.
Is that right, Jean?
They have revolving funds.
Yeah.
Revolving funds that the fees go into,
Oh,
and they
okay.
get paid out of there. Plus the town gives them a stipend. I think they're like $1,000.
Yeah, it's 2,000. But on the fees that are collected for the permits and that, do they
Yeah.
actually get the full amount of the money from the permits or just a portion of it?
Geez, I don't know. Let me look into that. It might be 75%.
Because I know in
25, 20.
Phillipston, they had a solar field go in
Yep.
and the inspector was getting the total from that solar field, which was an absorbent amount of money.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens. Yep.
So
look-
that
Let me look
they
into
were
that.
trying to change it so it was a percentage of the fees.
Yeah, let me look into that and see what the split is.
Because I just wondered how we worked it in Barre. I had never really thought about it before.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you know.
Okay, 'cause those were the two things that I was looking at.
The building inspector is a shared position, is that correct?
The regional, yep.
Right, so our 63,000, no, 64,000, that's our share or?
No, that's the total. And since we are kind of like the host town for it, we cover the budget in its entirety. And twice a year, we send out letters to the towns that we share the resource with. And they, that's how that funds that position.
And how do we determine what we ask from the other town? Percentage of,
It's based off of, I believe it's based off of their population.
okay,
Is how it's divided.
okay. That's it, thank you.
In that same thing, now, how does that show on the books, Jean?
There's a separate budget for the region, and then there's the budget, building department budget for the town.
Right, yeah.
Because I'm getting confused. According to this is the Regional Building Inspection Services.
Yep, they have a budget, they have a regional building department budget, which is contributed to by all the towns, including Barre.
Okay,
But then Barre also has a building department budget.
now where is that budget?
Yeah, we don't have that.
We don't have that.
Maybe did they eliminate it this year? I don't know.
I mean, what we have in front of us is, it encompasses, I do see now that it does say Regional Building Inspection Services, but I
Yeah.
mean, Andrea, the clerk, who is only working for the town of Barre, is included here.
Right.
So
Okay.
It's gotta be the
Um,
building.
it's,
So that must be just the town one.
Yeah.
That she's put in.
yep.
She didn't do it.
Yeah. So there'll be a separate one when that, for the region for next year too. You'll have to figure out what that one's gonna be.
Hmm.
Because that gets included in our budget too, although it's paid for, by the other towns, 3 other towns.
So
Right.
we're saying this is town of Barre, not the regional.
I think what you're looking at is just the town of Barre.
Yeah, because the,
Does that have
well,
bills on it though?
they have, so we have, like, for example, the plumbing inspector, the electrical inspector, and the gas inspector. Those positions are exclusive to Barre.
Right.
And then underneath that, there's an expenses category that includes, travel and supplies and everything and training. And that totals to $9,300. So I think that might be that's
Now-
potentially part of the
That's not-
regional.
Is the budget
Can
built
you-
wrong though? Because if you look, again, going back to the expenditure report, it shows that the building commissioner on page 6, the first line, there's a carry forward number of close to $8,000 with a budgeted figure of 64,979.
Yes, because the towns, whatever we have left over in the budget from the prior year for the money that the towns have contributed, we use that money towards the next year's budget, and then we reduce the town's assessments. So like, if we have money left over normally in the expense account, we would close it out to free cash. Well, now we're talking about 3 other towns that are included in that budget, giving us money for it. So we can't really take their money and close it into our free cash. But what we do is we reduce the budget for them, whatever the budget is for next year, we reduce it by those amounts. We carry them over from the previous year that they've already paid for. And then we assess them the difference.
Why don't we budget for just our portion of the commissioner though, instead of having this money carry forward?
Because that's part of the agreement with the host community. So we have to take the brunt of the whole accounting system.
And it's kind of like how, another example of this is where we share the regional dispatch. So we don't have like in our budget a line for the regional dispatch. That all goes out to Rutland. And the same thing would happen if our assessment was too high. It would be put into, kept in that account, and our assessment for the next year would go down.
Right. So in our budget, we have just a line item for dispatch for the town of Barre, but in Rutland, they have the entire budget for the dispatch, all broken down, like our region is, their dispatch is all broken down.
Mhm.
On our side, we only see the money that we just send them. So in the regional building, the three other towns just have a line for assessment. That's it.
Okay,
And we carry the burden of the detailed budget.
understood. So will we
Peter,
always
but
have a
isn't that
carry?
why you have a 242 account and a 241 account to keep
Yes.
this straight?
Yes, because the 241 is just the town of Barre, and I think the 242 is the region. That's how it's listed.
242 is your other piece,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
But
so
I
yeah,
think
I
that's
have to keep
important
keep it.
on this Excel sheet to keep the account straight.
Yes, because I have to know at the end of the year what's left over from the region, so that they
Right.
don't, so that they benefit from what's left over too, not just the town of Barre, because otherwise we would be taking their money.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we're footing the bill for his salary.
Yes, they're all, the other towns are all chipping in for his salary, yeah.
Well, why am I not understanding this?
Because his salary is whatever the salary is, and then we divide, and then it's apportioned by percentage to the other, to the town of Barre. We have a chunk of that we pay.
Yeah.
And then Peterson has a chunk, Hardwick has a chunk, New Braintree has a chunk. And they all pay us twice a year during the year.
Yeah,
That money comes in as a revenue into our revenues. But that whole budget is all those towns paying for it, 4 towns.
I guess what I'm
But Claire, on
doing,
our
why
sheet-
we're budgeting the full amount.
Because
So we
it
are-
comes out of our account. So the revenue comes into one account, and it's paid out of all of his insurance and everything is included, instead of him getting like 4
Comes
different.
out of that account that money's going into.
Yes, we pay all the bills.
Okay,
The host.
Yeah, we're the host. So we pay all the bills.
So there'll essentially always be a carry forward balance for that.
Probably, because I don't think they'll ever spend all that money that's in there.
okay. That takes care of that one. The next one's the Board of Health.
And I know Andrea is not coming tonight because she took the day off, and she's just very burnt out from yesterday's
Yeah.
clinic.
Yeah.
I
They
know,
did a
I
hell
saw
of a
Brian
nice
and
job
Ted.
yesterday. They did a nice job yesterday.
Thank
Really
you.
well done.
Maybe you guys should give the COVID update when we get to it.
Yeah. Well, they have level funded everything on the budget. So-
That's the other piece of it, is that it is level funded.
It's kind of surprising, really. Surprising that in this day and age, they've been putting so many hours in and everything. It's
all coming out of the CARES Act.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's what I was
so,
gonna say.
yeah,
that's good.
Good.
that's definitely been helpful.
Does anyone have any questions that Jessica could find some answers for on the Board of Health? If you need something.
Do we have a Board of Health agent now? Or is he on medical leave or what's going on?
He is slowly transitioning back into the role as the health agent. I know that it's just been a long recovery process for
You
him.
didn't
But
have
I
a
think he is.
substitute person to take over though, huh? Because that was really tough on Andrea. That's,
We did not know. I don't think we can speak highly enough of the work that Andrea has done over the past couple of months. I mean, she's really like gone above and beyond. It's been a very tough couple of months, and we're very lucky to have also the help of other area Board of Health agents as well, like Rich Stevens.
good. All right.
You know, I couldn't find anywhere in the expenditure report a sanitary landfill, okay? It's
Oh.
not in account 433 or 510. And
It's there.
it appears on the Excel sheet, but it's not in the expenditure report. So I'm not sure what's going on there. It's $1,140.
That's a good question. I had the same question.
I don't think we budgeted for that last year.
No, it's not in the expenditure sheet, right? But it should be either under the 433 account or the 510 account. And it's
But I
not
don't-
either one of them.
The 433 is
Listed
on
as a
page
433 account on the Excel sheet. So I don't know what's going on in some of that stuff, you
I
know?
don't think we budgeted for that, and we don't run that anymore.
Right, great.
So that solid waste runs that, and it's only every once in a while they do some kind of a repair down there or something from the town, but other than that, they're maintaining, as far as I know, they're maintaining everything down there.
Or not.
So that 1,140 is not needed.
Yeah, no, I did. Andrea did mention that to me, that she had seen it was included on that sheet, and she did mention that it had been moved out of that budget.
Okay.
So that does need to be taken off.
Okay.
Now we have the selectmen.
The selectmen, yes.
Yes, yeah, I know. We do have quite a bit to go over for the selectmen. The only thing that I'm still waiting on getting numbers for is the insurance, but I have that meeting next week. So we'll see how that goes.
Can I just have one, I missed a question I wanted to ask on the building
Yeah, sure.
department
Go
real
ahead.
quick. Because they're level funding, but they have a carry forward balance on their travel and communications. And they also only spent so far about $800 this year. And to be funding that for another $4,000 going, I mean, it seems like they're gonna have money in the coffers already to fund their travel expenses.
I think that's something I'll have to look into, what the regional agreement says, because if the regional agreement says that, every year it has to be $4,000, then we can't really stray from that. Once the regional agreement is up for renegotiation, we can adjust those numbers then. But I think until I look more into that, I don't think we can really mess with those numbers too much.
Okay, so that's another line that I just kind of have a balance carry forward unless a contract's adjusted.
Yeah, it's great question.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So
Okay.
is everybody ready to go over the Board of Selectmen's budget?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
The town council and legal expense always goes along to the selectmen.
Yeah, it's in there.
Is that in this?
Yep.
It's under
Yeah, it's in one of the accounts.
selectmen expenses.
Yeah.
It's in the very the second to the last tab.
Yeah, I'm looking at the printed copies because I have no computer. So, and the ones that printed off was the town buildings.
151 account.
Yeah, there's several sheets on that.
I've got one sheet that came
Yeah, well,
through.
there's several. There's like 5, I guess.
You might
When
not
you
have printed
sent-
the full workbook.
Yeah, there's 5
printed
sheets.
the worksheet.
It's a
'Cause
problem.
mine only printed one.
When it originally
I
came the
had-
first time, Claire, a lot of this stuff wasn't in it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm missing some of the pages then.
Right.
So Claire,
Would
how do you
you-
want, do you want me to go over it? Do you want me to wait until you're able to have all of the sheets in front of you, or?
If you can send me those extra sheets just on the selectmen that you go over tonight.
Yeah. Well, I sent it in the email that I sent last night.
Well, evidently I had someone copy it for me
Okay.
and print it for me, and evidently it only printed out one.
Well, you got to expand the Excel spreadsheet. In other words, I
Yeah.
had the same problem. I only printed the first page and then I discovered there was more pages, so I had to go back in.
Yeah, see,
Just-
Jim probably, he was printing it because my phone won't print on his printer either.
Right.
So if I can get them printed out, but I'll just take notes, I more or less know the sheets. I'll have him
Okay.
do those tomorrow.
Sure. So I'll start on the town building sheet since everybody does have that in front of them.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have our municipal custodian that's a level funded request, and employees, I forget what year it is, but employees do get a longevity stipend after so many years of service to the town. I think it might be either 20 or 25 years, they start getting a longevity stipend of $150. And then under expenses, we have the telephone expenses and the regional planning assessment were moved to central purchasing. That was a move that the interim town administrator did last year. So that's why you have some X's there until they.
Question on that one.
For sure.
What was the planning commission assessment? Did we get that last year? Or?
We did. Yep. So last year it was 1585.
Right. But I don't, yeah, but we had it printed out somewhere?
Yes, it was under the central purchasing account.
Okay. Good.
Yep. So, and the Regional Planning Commission assessment is CMRPC, which is the regional planning agency that we work with on a lot of different projects.
Yes, they're great.
They are
Cool.
fantastic people to work with.
Yeah.
So under the following categories, I took some reductions. I was able to, I looked at previous year's expenses, and I just think that I could reduce a lot of these budgets because a lot of years, and even this current year, what we're spending out of these accounts are a lot lower than what's budgeted. And I understand that, like repairing town buildings, it changes year by year. And so there could be just a year where the building needs a lot of expenses, and that's something that we, at this point, given the age of a lot of our buildings, we can expect, but a lot of times that stuff can be also covered under insurance depending on what happens. So I felt that it was appropriate, especially given the year that we could have, to move some of that money out and free it up to move it elsewhere. So I cut the repairs to town buildings in half, and I reduced the Henry Woods building account by $6,400, and also the town hall maintenance by $1,900, because like I said, what I've seen based on previous years and this year, we're just not coming close to using a lot of that budget. And also I am being very proactive with trying to get grants to take cover, to take over on some improvements. So I'm hoping that those efforts will also be successful. Grants are a really big part of my overall goal. And I've been very successful so far on applying for grants and being successful. So I hope that I can continue that trajectory and, you know, be able to move some of that money elsewhere.
Sounds good.
Yep, that's great.
Does anybody have any questions on the town buildings?
How come under the total line, we just totally expenses? We didn't total the salary on this, the bottom line of the budget.
Well, because the expenses, and this has been pretty consistent across all of the other budgets, is that the total is for the expenses. And then there's usually a total line under the salaries. But since there's only one salary, I mean, I could add a total line there, but.
Okay, well, I didn't, at first I was wondering, so, all right.
And I do want to mention that I did keep the public safety building level funded because I do feel that that is the one budget that either comes very close or exceeds their budget. So, but we are going to expect to see some savings. When I was talking to the police chief, we do expect to see some savings because we're having the donated solar panels being installed, and that's expected to save us about $4,000 a year in expenses. So we'll see what happens next year.
Yep.
So under central purchasing, you'll see a 0.18 increase in expenses. I reduced the telephone expense because, again, that's another item that I've just seen we haven't come close to spending out the entire account. Although I have been apprised over the past, 8 months that I've been here that our phone system, we could look at updating it, but I don't have any numbers for that. And I feel that that would probably far exceed what we have budgeted right now. So I think that that's kind of a longer term planning that I need to look into, and I don't want to budget for it right now because that's something that's going to take a lot more time to work on. If I have some answers before we finalize this budget, then maybe I'll come back to the finance committee and approach you guys on that. But for right now, I think that this is an appropriate request of.
That might be a capital expense anyway, right?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could very well be. I could find a grant for it even too. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, just there's a lot of innovative things that I can do with state grants. So we'll see. The Regional Planning Commission, that is not a number that is decided by myself. That's something that I get from CMRPC, and you can see it's only goes up 2.5% from 1585 to 1624. And I can tell you that the services that they provide to the town of Barre far exceed $1,600. The postage, I did increase the postage pretty significantly from 5,000 to 7,000. I mean, we are already over budget this year on postage, and I don't want to compare this year to next year because of what the kind of year that we've had because of COVID, and then also just the early mailings and for voting and just having like that federal election. That's a big part of this. Not the whole reason though, that we've spent so much on postage, but we're obviously, unless something crazy happens, right, we're not going to have another federal election. So
Yeah.
so I don't anticipate to have the same amount of postage go out this year, but postage does go up. Every piece of mail costs a little bit more each year. I know that our mail machine, we got a new mail machine today. So hopefully we won't have any mechanical issues. And that mail machine was delivered in conjunction with a new contract with the company, Pitney Bowes, and our assessment for that actually went down. Our lease for that went down. Not a lot. It only went down by $5 a quarter, but still, I was expecting it to go up a lot more just because everything seems to always go up. And I level funded the town report just because I think, you know, Sandy can speak to how, and I'm not asking Sandy to speak right now, but she can probably tell us how that process goes on how much it costs, and the cost does increase, but there's also, you know, I think there's a lot of leftover books at the end of the year, so we can always look at just reducing the number of books that we get. Does anybody have any questions on central purchasing?
Nope.
Okay.
Now, on the expenditure report, I've been kind of following along on that. The
Sure.
centric phone lines is listed there under
Yep.
central purchasing.
Yep, it's an $11,000 budget.
Okay.
And so
So
I
that was-
reduced that
The
a little
thing is,
bit.
on the Excel sheets, we have the wrong account number on there. So if somebody wants to go check back at the other port, they get the wrong number. Centrex should be a 193 account, right? And the town
Yeah.
report is also 193 if you want to go back and look, but
Yes,
there's
yeah,
a
no,
wrong number there. A lot of time it's hard. What that line really is in the world.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's just because Heather went through and changed a lot of things last year. And so I'm working off of a process that I'm more familiar with that Andrew did. And the way that she did it was just a lot different. And so I am actually, the budget that the sheets that I'm working off of are now 2 years old at this point. So yes, you're absolutely right that all of those account numbers I need to go through and make sure that they match up with what Heather changed. But yes, noted. So I didn't make any changes to the selectmen expense. The stipends are still budgeted at $1,800, and that's just, you know, whether the select board decides to take the stipends or not, whether the moderator decides to take the stipend or not, we still have to include it because it's their choice to either take it or leave it. And then I just feel that I took the postage out of the expense line just because that, again, that was moved from Heather, and kept everything the same. Although I think that like the part under expenses that cover mileage, travel, and meals, we don't know what the next year will present us with for if I will be able to do any traveling or going to meetings, or what that will look like in the future anyways, because after COVID, there could still be a lot of meetings that are held remotely. Does anybody have any questions on this?
No.
The only question I'm going to ask is on the select board expenses for this year.
Mhm.
It's 90%.
Yeah, we've gone over that. It's because I had to take training that wasn't anticipated.
Okay, extra training. Okay.
Yeah, there's this kind of like how we were just talking about Alex's training. It wasn't budgeted in because it's being budgeted in, and that was such a big increase. And so last year it was not budgeted in for me to go to or remote into some required training that I had to do. So that's why the expense is so high right now.
Now, we're going to have enough to carry us through, or is it going to go over?
Yeah, I think we should be fine because there's not a lot of other, you know, we don't need a lot of other things in my office at this point, and I think that we can scrape by until the end of the year.
Okay.
All right. So the fourth piece of this budget is the town administrator line, which includes my salary and Sandy's salary and the finance committee expenses. So my salary went down just because last year the interim town administrator had budgeted for an increase for what was expected for her, but my salary is at 77,130, so there's a almost 2% decrease at this point. And again, we level funded everybody else's salaries and then level funded the finance committee expenses as well, or the finance expenses. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. And then we've talked about the holiday decorations account. We talked about that at the last meeting with Sandy, and the street lighting account is level funded. And for our legal expenses, we have our town council and our other legal expenses, which includes our labor council. Those are two different items. And last year, there was a budgeted increase because our town council, who we have been working with, I think he's been the town's attorney for 30 or 40 years. He requested an increase in his stipend from 6,500 to 10,000, and so that's just level funded after having conversations with him. He is still interested in doing another year. I think that this is probably going to be our last year with him. There has been for the past couple of years, I know a lot of people here probably know Jim pretty well, but you know, I think there's been a lot of conversations about him deciding to retire, and he's still interested in doing another year. So when he does decide to retire, though, that will be a pretty significant increase in that budget because attorneys are very expensive and usually are not held on a retainer like ours are. So we can look at a big increase in the future for that. Our labor council is also another one that we have held on a retainer. So we pay them monthly and they give us essentially unlimited service. So all of the contract negotiations that we do, they will come to all of our meetings, meet with us multiple times a month, and it's one standard fee, whether we talk to them once a month or 10 times a month. So I think, you know, they provide a really good service to the town for sure. They're really a really good firm, but I think it's also good for budgeting purposes that we're able to have the luxury of saying that it is, you know, I think it's about $750 a month. And that includes even if we go into mediation or arbitration, it's still a standard fee. I did reduce that line though, because I noticed that it was increased, or for the past couple of years, it's been at $16,000, but we don't really come close to spending the entire $16,000. I think that potentially is in the event that there's something beyond, not related to our labor council, but you know, if there's a lawsuit against the town or some other kind of legal fee that comes up, I think that's what that's budgeted for. But I think that in the event that there is any kind of significant lawsuit against the town, the cost of us going to trial, or because so what our attorney's fees covers does not cover him going to a courtroom for us. So if there's a case or you know, something above and beyond, like looking at contracts or zoning and doing kind of like the back house work, we would have to contract outside of that. And if that happens, that budget would be blown almost immediately. Because again, like I said, attorneys are very expensive. So I think that we can afford to cut that budget back a little bit because like I just said, in the event that we do have to go out for some legal expenses, that budget's going to be blown, whether it's 13,000 or 16,000. So does anybody have any questions on that?
Oh, sounds reasonable.
Okay. And then the IT expenses, I haven't gotten any communications from any of the IT services that we work with that any of our fees are going to change. So I think as of right now, I submitted this as, to say this is what we're requesting. And in the event that, our services come back and say, we need to adjust it here, to increase it, to decrease it or whatever, I can keep you all apprised on that. But as of right now, this is, a level funded budget as well. And there's definitely, so we're still kind of early on in the budget season, but going forward, like for example, we haven't gotten our assessment for the Rutland Regional Dispatch. And so there's definitely a lot of numbers that can change over the next couple of months just because we haven't heard back from, or we haven't heard from any of these other services where they set the fees for us. And the insurance is another good example, like I had mentioned earlier, that I didn't even include it because I know that I'm going into those conversations next week. And those numbers are definitely going to change because those numbers change on a number of factors, including, and you've all dealt with insurance personally before, I'm sure. So you guys know that, if you get into a car accident, your insurance is probably going to go up in the next year. So it's the same thing for towns when we have, an injury, workman's comp, or like we had at the senior center recently, a pipe burst. All of those things impact our insurance rate. So, but there's things that can help our insurance rate also, since we are in, our company for insurance is called Maya, which is the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Agency. So basically a bunch of cities and towns are members of this insurance company, and they're able to negotiate rates based off of the number of members in the agency. So every time that number grows, that can help our numbers go down a little bit as well. So there's a lot of moving factors in it. And I'll be, looking forward to giving you guys an updated report on that pretty soon. And other than that, that's what I have for you guys tonight.
Any questions for Jessica from anybody?
I have one quick one I forgot to ask before. On our street lighting, is that the stuff that we pay the electric company, or is that to take care of the lights we have around the common?
I think that's for the lights that we own, not the electric bills, but I'm not too sure about that.
No, I don't think so. I think that's the total bill of all the lights.
But the
Yeah,
thing is, what I was told at one time was the town owns those new lights. Electric company doesn't own them.
Well, then that's
So,
the bill for all.
Where
ones
the
we
hell,
own.
who's paying for those buggers? What?
That's the bill for all the lights that we don't own.
Yeah, that's paid
Yeah,
to
right.
National Grid.
It's a combination bill,
Right.
I believe. Right, Jessica? Do you ever see the bill?
Sandy's the one that takes care of those bills. So she's messaging. Okay. Yeah, she's messaging now. It is National Grid.
Jean,
Yeah,
do
it's
you
a-
know?
Yeah,
Jean knows.
yeah, it's the streetlights.
He knows.
Red.
That's
So
why we need
who
you, Jean.
budgets the lights in town?
What was your question?
Who, the new lights in town, who budgets that?
Mhm.
Who pays for that? Where show up?
The ones we own. Jean, let Jean
What do you mean
explain.
the ones we own?
The new
Those
streetlights
fancy
in the
ones on
common
the
area.
common.
Oh, they must
That
be,
was from
There must
believe-
be streetlights, I would assume.
Yes, they're plugged into
Like
the
the
same
dir-
network. There's-
The decorative ones.
Yeah, on the common. They must be just part of streetlights.
Yeah.
Think so?
It's
Yeah.
either, yeah, well, definitely the electric bill for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the
But-
repair in that must come under something.
Right. So like, for example, there's one that's missing right now. And that one's being covered, will be covered by insurance once I get the quote from Jason.
Well, so that's not electric company owned. Not if you pay an insurance on it.
No.
So we own them. The question is, who's fixing them?
You are.
Or we just,
That's a good one,
when they
Jake.
all die, we just cut the pole down.
That's right.
Yeah. Or a car hits it. I mean, that's the other option.
Yeah,
but,
well,
um,
somebody's
but
gotta
Then the
pay for
insurance
that.
pays for it, right?
correct. Yeah. So like I said, there is one that's missing on the common because a car hit it back in like October, I think it was, or maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. And so I'm just waiting on Jason to give me a quote.
It
and
hasn't
that's
been
gonna-
on since October. We don't need it.
Well, it is missing. I have actually heard from a couple people that they would like to see it back. So, well, I'm working on it.
That'd be, when we trace that down, it'd be a good idea of what goes on here. Who has to pay for it? Who has to repair it?
Right, right. As far as repairs go, yeah, that is a good question. I think when they were installed, it was a part of the Barre Common project, so it was probably covered by a grant at that point. So, yeah, no, you're definitely right. They can't all get hit by cars.
Just wait and see.
Yeah.
So that's something for you to look into, Jessica, to see
Yeah.
if anybody knows the answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we can move on to Jessica with her COVID-19 updates.
Yeah, I actually heard today from the federal government that the House Oversight Committee passed a resolution that will provide $4.5 billion in state and local aid to Massachusetts. So they're really just at the beginning of that stage. You know, it still has to go in front of the House and then in front of the Senate and then get to the president's desk. So I think if I'm looking at the general pipeline, there could be a little bit more money coming our way, which would be really nice to help with the impacts of COVID. Other than that, we do have, I don't know if I was able to update you guys at the last meeting, but we are eligible for more FEMA funds. So President Biden made the decision to have, so back when this all started, we have the CARES Act, and then we also have FEMA public assistance. And the public assistance piece of it was a very, very strict list of things that would be covered. So they're mostly related to like emergency services. So like the police and fire overtime, you know, PPE and that kind of stuff was covered by FEMA at 75% of the cost. And then the CARES Act covered the extra 25%. So now everything, that extra 25% is going to be reimbursed to our CARES Act funds. So we will be able, you know, to have a little bit more money in that respect. It's minimal. It's only like a couple $1,000s at this point. And then from, I think mid-January on, we have, you know, FEMA funds that we will be accounting for based off of our COVID vaccine distribution, and that will be covered 100% by FEMA public assistance as well. So we don't have to touch our CARES Act money for that either. And we haven't really been planning on using any more CARES Act funds at this point. We're just or at least not in like large quantities. There's a couple things here and there that pop up, like if somebody needs more masks or more disinfectant, or little things here and there, we'll cover it with CARES Act as needed, but there hasn't been any big decisions on making big expenditures out of CARES Act.
Okay. And then on the COVID vaccines, are they scheduling more, and how is that going?
That is all up to the state at this point. I mean, I really wouldn't, at this point, it's all up in the air because yesterday the state made the decision that unless you are one of the 20 municipalities, which are basically big cities, municipalities will not be getting access to the first dose anymore. So we will have to regionalize, which is really disappointing, but there's been a lot of pressure from the legislature on the governor's office to revisit that decision. And so we'll see in the upcoming days what that looks like. I've been advocating, the fire chief has been advocating, and our board of health have all been advocating to let us continue to distribute the vaccine, because as Brian and Ted saw yesterday, we had a pretty good run at our first big clinic. We were able to administer 211 doses. Very, very well run. I think that they did excellent. The planning of it was excellent. And yeah, you guys can talk about it if you'd like your experience.
Yeah, it was done very professionally. It was certainly many people there to take care of it. Looked like it was pre-planned pretty well. I don't know if they're gonna for the second dose, are they gonna not give them to the towns?
Oh no, yep. The second dose is definitely going to be taken care of. So anybody who got their first dose in town will definitely be able to get their second dose in town. It's just, at this point, we're not going to be allowed to get any more first doses. So
we can drive down to Foxborough.
Yeah, essentially. It's just a quick, it's right down the street. Yeah, and then stand outside for 6 hours in 10-degree weather. I mean, it builds character, but
They know more about it than we do, but it all boils down to they don't have enough vaccine to go around. Obviously, I mean that's the problem.
Yep, it's definitely a supply and demand issue. But when you think about how much effort local governments have put into this whole pandemic from the beginning, we've had so much put on us. We've always constantly adapted to the many changes that the state and federal government made, and we've really been trying to do our best.
Sure.
And then take like the last piece of the puzzle, the part that everybody's been looking forward to, and then taking that one piece away from us. It's really frustrating to be in kind of our positions at this point, but we are advocating, and at this point it looks like Rutland might be our backup, but the expectation is that a regional site will have to administer 750 doses a day, 5 days a week, to be able to be considered a regional site, which by my math, 4,000 doses a week, you might have the entire area vaccinated in a month, which would be good, right? But I just don't I think when we're talking about the scale of doses that will have to be administered, I don't know if it's going to be sustainable for this area. And I really don't want to see residents have to drive any further than one town over to get a vaccine. That's my opinion.
Okay. What else we got, Claire?
Okay, well, Jessica, you want to fill the board in on the selectmen's meeting on Gene's software and the monies?
Yeah, so the hours, as I'll go off of the agenda. So the hours for the accountant and the assistant accountant, it was my understanding that the select board they've decided to have a certain function that's been done in Alex's office moved up to Jean's office, and they want to see if that at this point can be covered, if that starts immediately, if it can be covered by the CARES Act. I really don't think that that's going to be, I mean, Jean's already been using CARES Act, to cover the hours that she does on reporting for COVID, and that's a responsible use of the CARES Act money. I would be hesitant to, kind of go beyond the scope of what the CARES Act money is used for that. But, they definitely entertained expanding her hours, and I definitely think that it's warranted to have Jean's hours expanded to 35 hours a week, considering, the goals that she has for the upcoming year. The discussion on the software was pretty lengthy. We had both Jean and Alex there to discuss the two different portions, or the two different, sides of having one software versus having two softwares. And by, the end of the meeting, the select board, they, didn't come to a decision, just because there was, even on the select board, there were just different opinions on it. So I would definitely encourage everybody who's interested in going and looking at that meeting. But I don't think it would be feasible to make any changes at this point for July 1st. I don't think it would be possible. And then, you don't want to do something like this in the middle of the fiscal year anyways, making any changes, just because, everything's already in motion. So it's not something that I see happening in FY22.
But the selectmen know that we're in favor of Jean keeping this software, and
Yep.
for the new budget that that's considered in the
Yep.
budget, the hours.
Yes, they do.
I guess my question is to Jean. Well, go ahead, Eric, go ahead.
No, you go, Brian.
All right. My question to Jean is then these hours, is that to take care of what we talked about earlier? In other words, he was claiming that he didn't, anything he posted or put in the system, I don't know what you call posted, but whatever's in the system, are you going to take over that?
Not into Vadar, but into SoftWrite. Not into Vadar. They're still gonna have to post it in Vadar, and then they have to print a report, which summarizes what they, in a batch, what they just posted. And you're supposed to give me that sheet of paper, and I'm going to post it into my software.
Okay. So the additional time is going to be needed for what?
Well, for doing that, but it's also for a number of other things. It's like, it's on my budget to be at all your finance committee meetings. I'll tell you that.
Yes, we appreciate that too. But
I know
Yeah.
you've
Paying
been
for it.
asking me for a long time to do it, so I figured this is a time to do it, especially with when
Yes.
Heather was here with the interim and now Jessica. So, I don't mind being here to answer the questions. I'd rather answer you guys' questions in person than, whatever. So yeah, it covers a lot of stuff. Also in the last, I don't know, probably 3 reports we've had, they want us to do the fixed assets, the capital assets in-house
Right.
on our own software. Right now, the auditors have been keeping track of all that. And it's really, we should be really have that in-house. And so that's a big project. We have this software already. We've had it for a couple of years. I was going to do it last year when COVID hit. We were going to start it, but everything went out the window, and that's going to be a big project. It's going to be, tracking all the assets in town and the sewer pipes and the water pipes and it's a huge project.
Wow.
So I'm definitely not going to have enough time in my budget for that.
Obviously.
And then there's issues with, I don't know what's going to happen with when Alex catches up, if he catches up. I mean,
Yeah.
balancing cash for the whole year in June again, that's going to take a lot of time.
Yes.
This stuff should be done monthly so that we can be on track. So when June comes, everything's right there. But that's not happening. So that's going to cause a lot of more hours for me to do that too. You guys know that, most of you were here the last time this happened.
Yeah.
What kind of hours I was putting in trying to play catch up for 3 years.
So, but Gene, I was trying to get that straight with Alex, and he kept saying that he was up to date. That's what I don't understand.
Well, I
It just
haven't
isn't.
seen it, and I was in the office today, and I don't have any collectors turnovers for the whole month of February.
Okay,
I do not have those turnovers from the banks, which are from the mortgage companies for that first billing on February 1st. That's a bulk of what comes in from the banks for people's escrows accounts.
but he is up to date at the end.
He says he's put it in, but I don't see that turnover in my office.
Okay.
It's not in a batch sitting on my computer, so Janine has not posted even into that yet.
All right. But he said, yeah.
So, I mean, if I'm gonna play catch up in June, July, it's gonna hit me in July, it's what's gonna happen. And so I'm gonna be working crazy hours trying to get everything balanced and done. So how that worked, I mean, it snowballs so fast. Each department, my department depends on information from his department. So he holds me up, and then what happens, it all gets dumped on me, and then I play catch up, because as soon as I, get done balancing for as of June, who the heck knows when that'll be, and then I catch up for back to July again, and then, I mean, Brian and Ted, you guys, you remember what happened. And I just don't want to go down that road again.
Yeah, don't want to have to.
It just snowballs.
That's why I was trying to, get those answers earlier, and we probably need to do it.
Yeah.
There again, the selectmen, I would think, would be interested in this too. But
Well, we discussed that at the selectmen's meeting too, so.
yeah, okay. Let's see if we can get.
Now, Jean, have you balanced out for January? At the end of
Yeah.
January yet?
Balance, no, not balanced anything.
Yeah. I thought you had said that at the selectmen's meeting.
Yeah, I
that you
can't
were-
balance receivables if I'm missing all that stuff. And I can't balance cash if he's not balancing it to the bank. So, I mean, there's the two most important things in my office that I can't balance.
When would you like to have them balanced? Every day or every week or at the end of the month?
So the collectors turnovers used to come in on a weekly basis. By the end of the week, they were, that was put in at the end of the week, and it was, and Sharon was balancing cash every month. So to the banks. So, it should be the way it should be done. I think in the financial procedures manual too, we had put in there at some point that cash should be balanced by the 15th of every month.
Well, we have,
I think it's in there as because we put that in after the last episode. That's not happening.
Well, that's it. We should set some targets for that department and make sure they meet them. Whoever he works for.
But
All
I mean,
right.
that's the worst part about my job, is that I depend on other departments to do their job so that I can.
Yeah, it's a team. Yeah, it's a team.
Yeah,
It should be a team.
but if they, but then,
You should be working.
they don't want to do it. So it's like,
I know,
what am I supposed to do?
I know.
Gene, your job is to bury the bodies. You can't bury them till you get the bodies.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
I have a question so in regards to the salary, right? Were the selectmen in agreement on the increase? Or I know there was a question to getting you onto a step program.
They didn't even talk about that.
Okay.
They didn't even.
So I looked into what our wage and comp plan looks like, and I think it was at year 9. That's when the accountant salary currently will meet up with the steps. So
Can you explain that a little bit, Jessica?
Yep, yeah, so every position that's not contracted is on the wage and comp
Yeah.
plan. And so we have a step one, which is the minimum that, or actually there's the minimum and then there's the step, I think it's step 7 or 8. And you know, the individual who is hired is usually brought in at the minimum salary. And then every year or two, and then, you know, as time goes on, it fluctuates a little bit between 1 to 2 years or 3 to 5 years. That's when the next step comes up. And the way that the hourly wage that Jean makes now is higher than what her years in service are. And so when she will catch up to where the step will finally be higher than what she's making, that's year 9.
Okay.
Yeah, and the problem is that when I came in, I wasn't even on that. So that whole thing was made after I'd been there for 6 years. So
Yeah.
to say that I came in above the step, the lowest step, there was no low step. Didn't exist.
Right, when you were hired, for sure, that I totally believe that.
And did you find out where those numbers come from?
Yes, there was a list of, I think it was 6 or 7 towns, which I can share that with you guys. I'll have to find the letter again, but
Yeah.
it was but I mean, if we want to talk comparatively, I think that those wages are about 20 cents less an hour than what I technically make an hour. So I think that there's definitely a lot of adjustment that needs to be made across the board in the town. Okay, so it says here, salary data was used from, so the wage and comp plan was proposed based off of the town of Princeton's comp and class study. And the town of Princeton used Barre, Boylston, Harvard, Lancaster, Leicester, Paxton, Petersham, Princeton, I just mentioned Princeton, Spencer, Sterling, Stowe, West Boylston, West Brookfield, and Westminster to kind of develop a range.
So the study was done in Princeton and it covered all those towns.
2017, yes.
Yeah. How many years ago? A couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago, yep.
No.
Jessica, can you send that to me, please?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Where do we go on the accountant's hours? What are we doing there?
For FY22 budget, they said to, you know, leave them in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So we'll put them in the budget sheets, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what
Okay.
we'll go with.
Good.
Now, does anyone else have any questions at all about anything? I've got on there a finance committee discussion, if there's anything you want to bring up or talk about. Even you, Jean.
Dan or Carrie, any questions? Things you would like to know that you don't about the finance of the town?
I mean, I'm just learning as I go here.
Yeah.
At the end of all of this, we'll get like a high level overview that shows like the total line items for each department and like where their
Yeah.
percentages. fall.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, we really haven't seen a bottom line yet.
Yeah.
Have we?
No, well, we really don't see that until like the beginning of April,
Okay,
until we get all the budgets in and
yeah.
And
Yeah, it is early, yeah, you're right.
was there any more talk on the capital? Or did we finalize that conversation last meeting, or is there still some open discussion left on that?
we're going to discuss at the next meeting on March 4th.
Okay.
I've got that on to talk over. You'll have that ready, won't you? Jessica, are they all coming in? Have you got them from the departments? They were supposed to all be in, well, by March 4th.
Yeah, I have the fire department, I think, is the only one that's sent in, but I know the police department is pretty standard,
Yeah.
so his will come in at any time for the cruiser. And then the DPW, I'm still waiting on a budget. Never mind their
Well, they're
capital
due March 4th.
Oh, I know.
So send, why don't you send Jason a message from the finance committee if all the members agree that we must have his budget and must see him on March 4th. That w-
I'll probably just stop by the
Yeah.
DPW
And just tell him that we need to,
catch him at a good time.
that we need
Yeah.
to talk to him about
Well, he's gonna be here, right?
what's what. Right, Ted and Brian?
Well, he's gonna be there the next meeting, right?
Well, if he shows.
Oh, if he shows.
So I'm telling Jessica
Do we
to send a word
talk with
from
the,
us.
I see.
we talk to the board that supposedly keeps track of this stuff? Do they get letters at all? Did they get any budget notification letters? I mean, these guys are elected, aren't they?
Yeah.
The DPW commission is, yeah.
Could we,
I mean,
could
they
we
should
ask
get
them to
letters
come
to
to
help
our,
them.
Definitely be.
can't we ask them to come to our meeting on March 4th?
All 9 of them?
Yeah,
I mean,
if they're alive.
I think, it's really Jason's responsibility to put together the budget, kind of like how I have, I work for the Board of Selectmen, but I am responsible for putting together that part of the budget. So I think it would be fair, to potentially reach out to the DPW commission and say, for accountability purposes, but
yeah.
as
Just
far
carbon
as them
copy
producing,
them anyways with whatever you send out as a minimum.
yeah. So, but I think to expect them to present that budget, it is a pretty lengthy budget.
Well, I'm just
So I
saying
think
that
that would be,
if Jason doesn't show, we need to see the commissioners.
But I mean, he does come up with the budget every year. I mean, it's just, sometimes it's a little late, that's all. We'll see how it happens. We'll give him the benefit this year.
it is a rough time of year for
So
his department, for sure, with the weather. Right now, we're probably going to get another dump of snow within the next 24 hours. So,
yeah, it's not easy.
But that's part of his job.
That's why you get the big bucks. That's right, huh?
That's why he gets paid to do this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm all done.
Okay,
Maybe
so our
his
next
darts
meeting,
aren't sharp.
our next meeting is going to be March 4th. And it's the DPW, Sewer Commission, Water Commission, Parks and Commons, Tree Warden, and we have the town clerk.
Jason.
I think I'll probably put the town clerk on first.
Yeah,
Oh.
she should definitely. I've had a couple conversations with her, and we should have no problem with her
Yeah,
presenting.
we don't usually with Ellen. So if we have her first and then have Jason come in with the rest. So work on him, Jessica. See if you can get him to shape up.
Like I said, I might have to jump in a plow truck
Yeah.
with him at this point.
Yeah, with the phone, we'll be on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Jessica, would you like Guido's number?
Oh, boy.
Well, we'll send Ted down there to tell him. If he does again. Start
Yeah.
showing up, Ted, at all their meetings.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's all I have.
All right, sounds good.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Bye. Good
Have a good
night,
night.
everybody. Keep
Thank you,
safe.
everybody.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Great talk.
Thanks.
Hopefully